Hello, you're listening to episode 13, spooky, of 8-Minute Movies, Knives 8, a podcast talking about the 2019 movie Knives Out in 8-minute chunks, presented by me, Kieran, and him, Peter. This is a sequential podcast that contains big spoilers for Knives Out, so you should go and watch it first before listening, and start this podcast with episode 1. How are you doing today, Peter? How are you doing? How are you doing today?
I am doing all right. Yeah, I'm doing pretty good. I went to the new place that we're moving to. I pulled up a load of carpet underlay, which is apparently exhausting.
Yeah, it sounds very unpleasant.
Yeah, and it sends up like dust literally everywhere, and it's just I wouldn't recommend it. I in hindsight would have just paid the fitters to do that.
Yeah, why didn't you just leave it? Well, I mean, like, it was there already. It was fine.
It was old.
Yeah, but you know,
ropey.
So am I.
And you wouldn't... I don't just leave you around like my house most of the time as well. Some of the time.
That's fucking arguable.
no, like it is, but it's not. It's not out of lack of trying to get rid of you.
Yeah, you had to engineer a pandemic. Oh well, I hope you didn't hurt yourself too badly having to do manual labor.
Yeah, it's the first time ever. No,
yes, yes, I agree.
It's been a while, you know, a few aches here and there, but I coped. It's all right. It's all for a good cause. I'll be happy with it in the end.
Blended.
Apart from that, what have I been doing? I've been I played a video game.
Jesus, that's unorthodox.
Yeah, you know Stray, the game with the cat?
Oh shit. I bought Stray, the game with the cat, fully intending to play it, but haven't got around to it yet.
I like it. I think that perhaps for some reason it was just it seems to have been phenomenally successful, and that's maybe kind of inflated people's expectations for what it is, but it's good. But I don't know that it's amazing.
Right.
But it's very good. And I enjoyed my time with it. It doesn't outstay its welcome. It's way more of like just a adventure game than I expected.
Yeah.
You have an inventory in this game.
Yes, I've seen the cat has a little backpack.
Yeah, and there's using things with other things. Yeah, it's a charming little game where you get to be a cute little cat going around doing some errands and helping out some robots.
Yeah, I know 3 things about the game. 1, you play a cat. 2, there's a dedicated button to make you meow. And 3, it's in some sort of weird ass cyberpunk setting that I wasn't necessarily expecting, but fine.
Yes, it's in the genre of games with a slightly odd French vibe.
Oh, that reminds me, sort of ironically, I guess, of Remember Me, a really cool sort of cyberpunk game from like 2010, I guess. And it had this fantastic setting and like really good world building, but the problem was it was a fucking fighting game, and I was like, I don't want to play this. Dang.
Maybe you'll want to play the cat game because
I do want to play the cat game. In fact, by the next time we record a podcast, I might have played the cat game. Ooh.
Well, then I shall say no more about it.
Yeah, and we can compare notes.
Enjoy the game. I'll be curious to know what you make of it. And
I've heard it isn't very long.
It's not very long. No,
yeah.
You'll get through it in like a few sessions. I would think.
Mm-hmm.
How are you? How are you doing?
I am doing good. I ate some chicken from Nando's. That was nice.
Mm.
It was hot spiced chicken. Delicious. And I have spent the weekend watching bad sci-fi films.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah, is it?
I mean, I have always enjoyed the watching bad sci-fi films experience with you. So,
Yeah.
what have you got for us?
Well, one of these is one that you'll definitely remember if I say fetch the eviscerator.
Yes.
Yeah, I watched Imposter, which is based on a Philip K. Dick book novel short story.
Well, aren't they all?
Which is a sci-fi film set in the future where there's a man who may or may not be a killer robot sent by aliens to blow up the president. It somehow manages to make that premise quite dull.
Yes.
And outstay its welcome by a long time. The other dreadful film I've watched recently is Wes Craven's Mind Ripper.
Okay.
All right, let me let me give you the synopsis of this movie, and you see if it reminds you of any other films, right?
Okay.
A super soldier project in an abandoned laboratory has gone terribly wrong.
Right.
Yeah, that's it.
Oh, okay.
Does that remind you of any other films? Like, I mean, I quite like that concept, but I feel like it's done now. I feel like
I was gonna say that reminds me of lots of other films. Probably like it's like I feel like that's kind of par for the course in the I want to say 80s.
The problems. This is from 1995. The problem space here is fully explored. I think we can move on from that as a concept. And do you know what annoyed me most about the whole film? He doesn't do any mind ripping at all.
No minds were ripped in the making of this movie.
So, this whole super soldier project thing, right? So basically, it gives a guy yellow eyes and like a really smooth head. Like he has long hair that all falls out, and he gets like a really smooth big head instead.
Okay.
And he's like strong or whatever. But I think what the mind ripping part is he gets like this weird tentacle like protrusion that can come out of his mouth and stab people in the face with, and then they die.
I mean, it's more piercing.
Yeah, a more accurate title for the film would be Eye Piercer.
Mind stabber.
Maybe that was taken. I don't know. And also, I played 2 video games. Yes, I've been very busy.
Which ones?
I played some more of Power Wash Simulator. I think we spoke about that before.
We have done.
And I played Lord Winklebottom Investigates.
I feel like I've heard of that game, but I can't quite place it. Tell me about this game.
Okay, so Lord Winklebottom Investigates. Lord Winklebottom is a giraffe, and he's accompanied everywhere by his assistant, Dr. Frumple. And it's a point-and-click adventure game where there's a murder mystery on a remote island, and you have to solve the case.
Okay. Who is Dr. Frumple? What is Dr. Frumple?
Sorry, Dr. Frumple is a hippopotamus. I should have mentioned that.
Okay. Thank you.
Everyone you meet is an animal.
Right.
In like a little suit, like they were a man.
What a concept.
And it was pretty good. I enjoyed it. It does occasionally suffer from like fucking point and click adventure moon logic, which is a bit tedious.
Yeah.
And a couple of times I was incredibly frustrated with things. So it does 2 things that I don't think point and click adventure games should do here in the distant year of 2022.
Okay.
there's pixel hunting for things, which I am so over. Like, there definitely should be, if you're making a point-and-click adventure game, you should definitely have a button you can hold that shows you all the shit you can highlight and interact with. Because nobody has time to find out that, that there's a drawer in the kitchen that you missed.
Right.
And also, sometimes I don't know if other games have done this, which is why I found it quite frustrating. Sometimes you interact with something that you don't need, like, right now, and so he's like, "Oh, here's a thing," and you're like, "Okay, that's it. I guess that's the description," and then you go away, and because like later, I guess it just unlocks it in the game that you might need that object, so you can pick it up now, but like precedently to that you couldn't, so you might have kind of like dismissed it as something that you could pick up entirely because the game had told you that it wasn't relevant. Which,
Yeah, that's an interesting one.
yeah, like there's okay, minor spoilers, I guess, so skip ahead if you're gonna play it. There's an axe at one point in the game. And if you interact with the axe before you need it, they make a joke about axes and axolotls. And so I was just like, oh, it's just there as like a funny bit of set decorating, because there are other objects on the walls and things that they will just talk about if you click on them. But no, like, that is actually something that you need. And when you come back to it later, they're like, oh yes, no, we need this thing now. And you're like, because I spent a lot of time looking for a thing that I'd already dismissed. And I don't think I've ever seen an adventure game do that before. Normally, if something isn't relevant or whatever, they would just bald-facedly be like, not yet, come back later, or you could just have it now, and just goes in your inventory of other things to try rubbing on things.
Yeah, this is an interesting one because it seems like what they're trying to do is make it a bit more realistic, in that normally a person just wouldn't go around taking anything that wasn't nailed down and carrying it about their person. But that has been the adventure game convention, that you can do that for so long that you kind of don't expect to not be able to pick something up and then be able to later. You see it sometimes, something like that, but usually the way that it's handled, if you try to do something before you are actually able to, is that there'll be some sort of hint in the dialogue that might be a good idea later.
Yeah, there were one or two things. Like occasionally, it's this happens and it says not right now, come back later. But there were a couple of times with objects where it was just kind of like, oh no, this is just a funny thing, and I'm like, right, is that a funny thing, or will I need it later and have to remember to come back and check that one thing? But like, I feel like I've just been saying bad things about the game. The game is quite funny. It made me laugh. It's a good little mystery. I didn't put together who the killer was. Quite Agatha Christian, I think, in how it deals with that whole situation.
I'd have gone with Agatha Christesque.
Yeah, I had reservations about Agatha Christian.
Yeah.
But I was hoping you wouldn't pull me up on it, and you did, as you always do.
The thing is, that just shortens to Christian, which is no use at all.
Yeah, no, it was fun. I played through it in about 3 hours. I thought it was worth the money I spent on it. I had a good time with it. Oh, yeah, the reason I found that game is that a YouTuber I enjoy, the Stupendium, they did some of the voice acting for it. So
right, okay.
That's how I discovered it. Oh yeah, and Power Wash Simulator, I guess. It's out of like early access, that's what they call it. I kept wanting to say pre-release, but that's not right. Yeah, it's out of early access now, and you can play it. I think everything is finished. I'm power washing a building at the moment, a very large building that's taken at least 3 hours. And I'm like, is this a game? I don't know. They seem to have just gamified some sort of thing that in my dopamine receptors in my brain. I don't know. I'm just
Somewhere on the other side of the world, you're controlling a drone, watching real things.
Oh, that would be that would be a good idea. The weirdest thing for me with Power Wash Simulator is one time I played it for like a bunch of hours, just like a couple of months ago, and then afterwards I needed to power wash a barbecue. And I was just standing there like, oh, this is weird. You can't press tab to show you where the dirty bits still are. Like when you're actually power washing a real thing, it's a bit disappointing.
It's true. It's not the same.
It's not the same. But yeah, that's what I have done, and I am looking forward to playing Stray, the cat game.
Well, perhaps we'll talk about that next time. Are we moving into the bit where we say more things that are in some way relevant to the movie Knives Out?
No, this is the bit where we introduce the concept.
Isn't that what I just said?
No, but this is the bit where we explain what the podcast is. It's a podcast where we listen to the film in 8-minute chunks, and then talk about them.
Okay.
And then there's something to do with bells that's becoming increasingly obscure.
Right then. Well, that was excellent. We're very good at this. Yes, we're watching the film in 8-minute chunks. You know this because you haven't started on this chunk, have you?
Yes, no, because this is episode 13 of like a linear podcast where each episode builds on the previous one. You wouldn't start on episode 13, would you? That would be insane.
One day we're going to have to stop doing this bit. All right. Yeah, and then there's a bell if one of us says thing or out, and we're not talking about those films or the monsters in them or
whatever
or whatever, then one of us might remember to ding the bell and the other person will go
the other person will be grumpy because their train of thought will be interrupted.
Yes, and we will basically waste everyone's time until we get back on track.
Good summary. Okay, this is the part of the podcast called Let's Not Talk About the Thing, where we talk about something that's not necessarily directly related to the movie, but sort of is sometimes. Who or what wouldn't you like to not hear about today, Peter?
I want to hear about your fascination with knives.
No, we're not doing this.
Right.
Look, just because one time I counted all the knives within easy reach of my bed and that number was 21, that's not an obsession. That's just... they comfort me. Why are these podcasts going to be submitted as evidence in my trial?
I'm still here, by the way. I was just letting that run for a while.
I checked if Discord had dropped you again. In many ways, I wish it had. No, we're not talking about that. We're talking about Lakeith Stanfield playing Lieutenant Elliot.
All right. Do that.
I shall. I will. I must. Lakeith Lee Stanfield, born August the 12th, 1991, is an American actor and musician. He made his feature film debut in Short Term 12, 2013, for which he was nominated for an Independent Spirit Award. He received further recognition for his roles in the films Selma, Straight Outta Compton, Crown Heights, Sorry to Bother You, and Judas and the Black Messiah, the lattermost of which earned him an Academy Award nomination. Have you seen Sorry to Bother You, Peter?
I don't think I have, no.
That is a really weird movie.
What's it about?
I'm remembering a bit here because I saw it when it came out a few years ago. it's Lakeith Stanfield plays the main character, who is a black person who is hired to sell things like over the phone,
Right.
by using his white voice.
Okay.
So he's doing like a voice that sounds like and they are played by different actors
Okay.
when he's talking on the phone. And he ends up working for some sort of sinister Jeff Bezos-like figure, who has an incredibly fucking weird plan that he's enacting, that I can't talk too much about because it's a massive spoiler for the movie, but it is just, I was just like, oh, okay, that's fucking weird.
All right. Yeah. I will perhaps watch that at some point.
Yeah, it's very good. It's very entertaining, but also at the same time quite strange. Stanfield has also appeared in films Dope, Get Out, Uncut Gems, and Knives Out. You remember Knives Out?
I do remember Knives Out
What we're
and
talking
Get
about.
Out.
Yeah, Get Out. Oh, they both have out in the name. I wonder if that's like a callback. It's not. Of course it's not.
They should make a film called Get Knives.
Get your knives out. He starred in the series Atlanta, 2016 to present, for which he won a Black Reel Award for television. He has been nominated for a Critics' Choice Movie Award, a Gotham Award, 2 Saturn Awards, 2 Screen Actors Guild Awards, and 5 Black Reel Awards. He was a smoker until Jamie Lee Curtis convinced him to stop smoking on the set of Knives Out.
Oh, okay.
He was smoking, and she said, "Just cut that out." And he was like, "You know what? You're right." And he stopped smoking. I guess for all of our little foibles and vices we don't necessarily like, maybe we just need Jamie Lee Curtis to tell us stop.
I think if Jamie Lee Curtis just told me quite sternly not to do something, I'd probably not do it for at least a while.
Yeah, it's a great system.
Yeah.
Especially if she's in her very severe like outfit she's in for Knives Out.
Yeah.
I don't know how I'd feel about it if it was the outfit she was in for Everything Everywhere All at Once.
What if what if she was in the kind of in hot dog mode?
Oh, Jesus Christ. Oh, well, that's a deep cut. Go and watch Everything Everywhere All at Once, listeners, so that we don't have to do a season about it.
We will.
Everything.
Everything Everywhere all 8 to once.
Oh, God. No, you're not allowed to think of a good one. If you think of a good one, we have to do it. Those are the rules. Oh, fuck.
Can't say the word "at" during that series.
Or everything. Okay. Well, that's a whole third of the podcast already in the podcast bag. This is the bit where we actually watch the film and like talk about it and stuff. Yeah. Let's review your answers from the previous episode, Peter.
Okay.
I said, if you were seeing this for the first time, who do you think is the murderer, and how did they done it? And you've changed your answer from what it was previously. You said it might be Ransom, but you don't know how.
Yes.
You're suspecting him, possibly because you know what the actual solution is.
Yeah, it's hard to say how much of that, but if I was watching it really closely and taking in all the details, that detail about him climbing the what do you call it, outside the house?
The trellis?
The trellis, that's the one. I think that would have pushed me into, well, he's up to something and it might be murdery, but I don't know how that works with with the facts that we already know so far.
For now.
Mm-hmm.
And you also said, what happens next? And you said that Marta meets Fran, who has been poisoned, and she says, you did this. And outside, Blanc is sitting in the car singing show tunes to himself.
Yes.
So you got the first half, but I don't think you could remember where it went from there.
Yeah, I didn't remember the conversation that we're about to talk about in the hospital, and I didn't know how quickly it then got back to the house again.
Quite promptly indeed. And so with that, listeners, we're going to be watching 1 hour and 36 minutes to 1 hour and 44 minutes of Knives Out. Yeah. Marta runs into a door a few doors down from 1209. 1209 being the address that she was supposed to meet the blackmailer at, of course. She walks quickly through a hair salon and out the back before entering the back door of 1209.
Nobody seems to care that she's there at all.
Yeah.
Acknowledge her.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, if I ran a shop and somebody was just running through into the secret back area, I'd be like, hey, but
I might at least look.
Yeah. Obviously, I don't know. This is done for expediency, I guess.
Yeah.
This is actually a real cleaners, John's Cleaners and Tuxedos in Maynard, Massachusetts.
All right.
I almost said Massachusetts correctly the first time. American listeners, be proud of me.
Yeah.
Massachusetts. Inside, she walks into an empty, dark, closed laundrette. Peter, it's time for real location or set.
Did you not just say this was a real location? Did you not literally just say that this was filmed at a real laundrette?
Real location or set?
Real location.
It's a set. This is a set.
What? But you just said it was a real location.
The bit where she goes around the back, out the back, and there's a sign which says John's Laundry. That's real. She goes through a door, and this is a set.
Okay. Fine. Okay. Why is it a set? It's very large. It feels like it should just be a real location.
They had a little bit of problems filming here on the set because it was much brighter than it appears here in the film. And obviously, Ana de Armas could see Eddie sitting in the chair, so they just darkened everything with post-processing.
Right.
Marta discovers her medical bag on the floor before seeing a dark and still figure on a chair. She draws closer, saying that she doesn't know what they want, but they'll have to sort it out right then, and that she's leaving with the tox report.
I think we realise something that's going on by this point, but she hasn't.
Yeah,
figured it out yet.
There's a sort of faint, sinister, throbby music as well here.
Yeah.
What instrument is that, Peter?
I don't know. I wasn't paying attention to the score at that moment.
You have one fucking job.
I don't. You asked me to comment on other things as well.
Yeah.
If all I had to comment on was the score, then I could just submit my answers in writing before we do all this, and you could just do a monologue. Shall we do that from now on?
No. You are my trained musicologist, though.
I don't know what the throbbing sound was. Shall we review it live? Is that where we are with this?
I don't think we have the technology to do that. I've closed the stream. But yeah, I mean, it's a sort of interesting noise. This is the sort of analysis you get on this podcast.
And if you know what it was.
I heard an interesting noise once.
Why don't you write in and tell us what you really think about us and what that noise was?
Don't tell us what you think about us. We have very low self-esteem. There's no response from the figure in the chair. The music swells creepily as Marta approaches and shines a light on the figure. Suddenly, we see a pale-looking Fran lying still in the chair, a spider climbing over her face.
Very good little movie shorthand here for, this person is either dead or at least has not moved for a while.
Yeah. It's the second jump scare of the film. Ooh.
I can't remember what the first one was. What was it?
Neither can I. I think it was probably turning around to see Great Nana at the window.
Oh, okay, yeah, that sort of makes sense.
Yeah. My notes here say the spider on her face makes me very uncomfortable, but then it's supposed to do, isn't it?
Yeah, no, I would not like to have a spider of that. That looked like a real spider as well.
Yeah, it is a real spider.
Real spider on a real face. So I'm guessing that she's not terrified of spiders or was able to control that very well.
Yeah, actually, it's interesting you bring that up because that's my next point. Rian Johnson forgot to ask her if she was afraid of spiders. And fortunately, she wasn't.
Okay.
Because I would have been like, no, you're doing that spider in post.
Yeah, that's going to be entirely computer generated spider.
That spider will cost you $200,000. Oh, dear. In her unmoving arms is the toxicology report. As Marta picks it up, Fran suddenly gasps. The sound designer Al Nelson added the sound of a snapping twig subtly when Fran gasps, because it's like breaking the silence of the preceding scene leading up to this.
Right.
And you can hear it if you're listening for it. But it's very interesting, like adding in these sort of subtle sound cues.
Yeah.
Marta lowers her to the floor, noticing a used morphine syringe on the floor.
So it's a morphine overdose. So what's the timetable on this? Because before we had a description of morphine overdose and how long it would take before that becomes fatal, right?
Yeah, so we had Harlan and Marta talk about it at the start of the movie after he gets injected. I think it's like with the amount that he's received, it's like 10 minutes until he'll be dead.
Right.
So I'm assuming, because we know that Fran was injected much earlier in the day, that it's a much lower dose.
Right.
Still lethal, but not like, Harlan receives like 2 orders of magnitude more than the dose you're supposed to give. So,
I wonder, that seems to be a bit of a mistake on the part of Ransom then, because he presumably could have given a much larger overdose of it, or maybe that's all that there was. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, but I mean, we see him do it in quite a hurry, so maybe he's not thinking about that. Maybe he's just thinking, well, that's enough, surely.
Yeah, probably.
Fran gasps, "You copy Stash. You did this. Won't get away with this."
Yes, we do, and I think we see this again later, slightly different.
Yes, they really had to get her to stress the different word in the other take because you can't hear it. I mean, it's that you hear what you expect to hear, I think. So
yeah.
Fran croaks and gasps as Marta backs away, watching her for a moment. And I think this is the moment where she's deciding whether to, if Fran dies, then great, nobody's blackmailing her. But do you think Marta could let her die?
I don't think so. No, I fully expected at this point her to just go, okay, well, no matter what else is going on at the moment, I need to try and help this person.
Marta runs and grabs her medical bag and starts performing CPR on Fran, calling 911 from her mobile. So you're right, yeah. So despite the fact there was like a second or two of deliberation, she couldn't do it. She couldn't let someone just die in front of her. We cut outside to Blanc sitting in Marta's car, singing along with a song on his headphones.
Tell me about this song then.
It's Losing My Mind by Stephen Sondheim from Follies.
Follies.
Ryan Johnson is a big fan of Sondheim and says, I was listening to Follies while I was writing. I love the idea that Blank is working on the case and he's got this big showstopper of a song in his head. Also, weirdly calling back to the last episode, apparently the character that Laurence Olivier plays in Sleuth is based on Sondheim to some degree. And the working title of the play was Who's Afraid of Stephen Sondheim?
Huh.
And in a cute little touch here, that's Daniel Craig's own iPod Touch that he would just listen to music on while he was on set with nothing to do. Not a prop, just his iPod.
Do you think he's actually listening to the song on the iPod while he's doing that bit?
Maybe. I mean, it's on the screen. An ambulance screeches to a halt nearby and he realizes something is up, jumping out of the car. He says, like, oh, hell, or something like that. Later, at the hospital, Blank waits with Marta. Marta says she doesn't want anyone else to get hurt, so she's going to tell him the truth. He interrupts and he says that Ransom has just explained everything to Elliot. Marta's relieved that everything's come out at last, but she doesn't know why Fran took her morphine.
His expression is very good through this, Blancs, because you can tell that he's still very much in the process of working things out. His eyes are still figuring stuff out here. He knows there's more to this.
Yeah, he's heard it, but he's not accepting it.
Yeah.
Which is sort of ideal for him as a detective, I guess. Like, he will not just... Like, twice now he's been handed, like, a perfect little wrapped-up solution to it on a plate and just gone, no.
No, it's still not quite right.
It's not quite right. There's something I don't know what it is yet, but something isn't quite right, and I'm going to keep worrying away at it until I've got my solution, which is, obviously the best solution. Marta says she has to tell the Thrombys herself and convinces Blanc to take her to the house. The doctors will call if Fran's status changes.
And he keeps on saying that he doesn't think that this is a very good idea, and I think part of that is this thing of him knowing that there's still more of this story to come out. But I think the other part of it is that he is like fully made up his mind now that he does not like these people and he is on Marta's side.
Yeah, and I think we get to see that in a little while. Back to the house, and we arrive as Marta is finishing her story, telling Blanc what Fran said to her. I've got a note here that I don't understand. It says the film crew are using a polarizer to modify the reflections in the window of the car as the scene goes on. Okay. I
guess polarizers, they change how light
is
reaches something, and so maybe if you're filming something that's through a car window or something, then that's difficult unless you've got another thing in front of the lens to filter out certain kinds of light, which maybe stops the reflection on the window to be too strong or something like that.
Sure, thank you for explaining my poorly researched note.
that is certainly a guess that I've just made. If it's right, let us know.
That's fine. They go inside, and Blanc leads everyone through to the lounge. Meg waits behind and apologizes to Marta for telling everyone about her mother, and Marta forgives her. They hug it out.
And here we see that Marta's frame of mind is still in in this idea of that the family, or at least most of them, are still essentially good people and essentially on her side, and she's very accepting of this of what Meg says, even though we've seen the other side of it, and that's not really how that went down. Like I said before, I think that Blanc doesn't buy that kind of story at all anymore, and is completely on the other side of it, and we'll see that in a second. Yeah.
Meg says she's going to go and raid Fran's stash after this, And Marta looks thoughtful. She now knows where the tox report is. It's in Fran's stash. David Schlesinger, the set decorator, made Fran's little stash box. He found a statue that was kind of appropriate and glued it to the top of a makeup box. Marta gives the tox report to Blanc. She says, "You're not much of a detective, are you?" And he says, "To be fair, you make a pretty lousy murderer."
Yeah, he says, perhaps we deserve each other. And he sounds a little bit dejected here. And I don't know whether that's just a little bit of an act or whether I kind of get the sense that at this point, it still hasn't quite clicked into place. And he's worried that she's going to set things in motion here that's going to bring an end to it before he's figured it all out.
Yeah, plus, of course, if she hadn't just bald-facedly given him the tox report, things would have been much less clear from here on in.
Right.
Marta goes through to where the whole family is assembled and starts to speak, Blanc behind her, reading the tox report.
Yeah, and I was watching Blanc during this bit, and when she first says, you've all been
So
very
kind,
good,
yeah.
so kind to me, and stuff like that. He's watching at that point. He's watching what she's saying, and he does. It's a little hard to see because he's kind of blurred and in the background, but it looks to me like he does just this little head shake and then just stops listening and puts his glasses on to look at the tox report. So he's he does listen for a second there, but it's just like, I think he already disagrees with that.
Yeah, he's seen through the whole family, but he doesn't think that he's going to have a chance to say that to them.
Yeah.
However,
yes,
Blanc runs in and interrupts her, berating the family for the way that they've treated Marta. He says, "You have not been good to her. You've treated her like shit to steal back a fortune that you lost and she deserves. You're a pack of vultures at the feast, knives out and beaks bloody."
Yeah.
Title drop. Ooh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, first of all, I want to say nice dog reaction earlier in this shot as well.
Yeah. When he says excuse me, the dog goes, "Oh."
Yeah. Very nice. And also, I think this is one of the few times where Blanc's head is kind of running ahead of his mouth a bit, because he eventually gets to his kind of flowery, weird metaphor that he likes to do, but he starts out with just like, "Oh, you treated her like shit," which is not his kind of normal style at all.
Yeah, because when I was trying to remember this before, like we did this, I thought he said you treated her like dirt, because I was like, I don't think he swears at any point in the film, but no, he does a couple of times, and this is one of them.
Yeah, and I think that he's because he's still in the process of like in real time, throwing the pieces together in his mind. Here, it's just at the beginning, it's just pure outburst of anger, and then he kind of assembles that into his weird vulture with knives metaphor.
Is this the only movie that we've done where someone drops the title? Because it doesn't happen in The Thing, and it doesn't happen in Alien.
Nobody says Alien.
I don't think so. No.
That vaguely surprises me, but sure.
I'm pretty sure nobody says Alien in Alien. Otherwise, we'd have mentioned it.
People say Thing, but not The Thing.
Yeah. Nobody looks at it and is like, gasp, The Thing from another world.
Yeah.
This was the first time the whole cast had been together and seen Daniel Craig acting as Benoit Blanc. So the surprise on their faces is genuine. And it was also the real reaction of the dogs that turned around to look at him as he stormed in. like they didn't. They just happened to have a camera on them, and they were, "Oh, good, a good dog take. Let's use that." Blanc says that Marta's decided to keep the inheritance and that he's going to recommend the case be closed and ruled as a suicide, and sweeps a baffled Marta out of the room.
Again, very presumptuous on his part, and very not a passive and respectful observer of the truth.
Neither of these
moment.
things is within your power to do, Blank. You're
Yeah.
a private detective. The Thrombies are very confused.
And Great Nana get a laugh out of her at this point as well.
Yeah, that's a great little touch here that we just cut to, and she goes.
And I have to wonder what's driving that laugh, because it could be a few things. I wonder if it's out of kind of maybe she understands that some of this, at least, has been driven by her son.
Yeah.
So some of this has been instigated by her son, and she's just enjoying him having his last little game with the family
From beyond the grave.
from beyond the grave. Maybe that's something to do with it, but it could be just general amusement at the situation. I wonder how much she likes the family. Probably not much, considering how they treat her.
Yeah, no, she also is somebody. They kind of treat her like an object whenever we see them. I keep thinking of Walt just screaming at her, "Want something to eat? To eat?"
Yeah.
When it turns out that her hearing is fine because Blanc talks to her quite quietly, and she obviously understands it.
I can imagine that very often that she'll just choose not to hear people around her.
Yeah. Oh God. One of the dogs at this point gives Linda Harlan's baseball. So if you're tracking the arc of the baseball through the movie, here it is. Remember, it got thrown by Richard out of the study window. The dogs picked it up and played with it earlier. They've brought it back to Linda now. And she knows it's Harlan's special baseball, so she's going to put it back. Blanc escorts Marta by the arm to the library, pursued by Elliot. He's literally kind of just dragging her through the building.
Yeah.
He's working up a head of steam here, I think. He's got it all lined up in his head. Blanc asks Wagner to throw the Thrombies out of the house. And that little thing there brings us to the end of this 8-minute section.
Yeah, we end on Wagner's kind of incredulous look, which is a very good freeze frame for this.
Yeah, he's kind of like, you want to throw the Thrombies out of the house?
Yeah.
But yeah, I particularly like that little section. A lot of stuff happens. It just goes to show with some editing, you can make a lot of things happen in 8 minutes. That's our podcast's motto.
Mm-hmm.
It's not. It'd be a dreadful motto. It's too wordy, and
it's
just a little nonsensical as well.
Yeah, it doesn't really make much sense.
Oh, get it translated into Latin. Everything sounds better in Latin.
Sure.
Peter, it's time for us to wrap this pod up. So I'm gonna ask you the question. If you're seeing this for the first time, who do you think is the murderer, and how did they do it?
Well, I still don't know how they did it, but I have a feeling now because the whole thing started happening with Blanc's reading of the toxicology report.
Yeah.
And if that's what triggered it, then I think if I was watching this really closely, might have inferred from that is whatever we think killed Thromby did not kill Thromby. But then he also throws into the mix that he's going to recommend that it's ruled as a suicide. So
yeah.
So does that mean that he doesn't think that ransom had anything to do with it? And so I'm at this point maybe thinking, I don't know. Maybe I'm back to not having a theory at this point. Again, I don't know.
Oh, it's just twists and turns all the way, isn't it?
But I will say that I do not think that the manner of death was from the morphine anyway. Now, or from the slitting of his own throat. I feel like or there's something else at play here that the toxicology report has revealed.
Okay.
Is where my head's at.
And what are you thinking of the film so far? We have but 3 episodes left.
Well, I mean, this is the part of these kind of films that you live for, right? It's always entertaining every time, even if you know exactly what happens and how it happens. It's, I mean, and as we know from Columbo, it's always entertaining to see the detective put the thing together and then explain how it all worked on screen, no
The
matter how
denouement.
much you know about it.
Yeah.
I see. You said it like I said it the other time.
I mean, that is just how it's pronounced, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
you can't really.
You can't say it not in a French way. You can't say denouement.
Yeah, you can't say it un-Frenchly. Yeah, the only thing that you can really do is lean into it.
The denouement.
I'm sorry, France.
So yeah, I think I spontaneously grew a moustache.
I'm sorry, France, but your words are just extremely French.
I think they'd agree with that broadly.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that bit of Francophobia brings us crashing to the end of the podcast. And as usual, if you have any questions or comments, if you can think of a French word that you can pronounce in an English way, why don't you email us at podcast@8minutemovies.co.uk and we will read your email and laugh at you.
Hashtag hostile listening environment.
And if you like the show, which you presumably do, having listened now to 13 episodes of a show that I mean, you wouldn't listen to 13 episodes of a show you hate, right? That's just deranged.
If you hate listening to this, let us know.
If you hate listening to this, like, stop. Like, it's not for everyone. You could find something else. Maybe try gardening. I don't know.
Yeah.
But if you do like the show, which we hope is most of you, tell a friend or leave a comment wherever you listen to this. One of these days, I'm going to figure out how to look at the comments people have left on our Apple Podcasts site. I can't do that because I don't have iTunes installed. So, and that seems to be the only way. Yeah, neither do you. So we're going to have to find a friend of ours who has iTunes installed and force them at knife point to show us that podcast review.
Now I'm just extremely scared and anxious about the idea that there are comments somewhere being left about us that we have not read.
Oh God, are they all negative? Listeners, if you have iTunes installed, could you screenshot the page for us and then email it to us? Oh God, we're so professional.
Unless it's so mean that you suspect it might break our spirit.
Oh God! And with all of that, I guess you can find me on the internet at Kieran J. Walsh on the Twitter, I guess. And you?
Kestrel Pie. That's Kestrel like the bird, and Pie like the irrational number.
Or the hot dish.
No, not like the hot dish. Or like the hot dish, but without an E.
Yeah. So if you subtract the natural logarithm of the hot dish.
This is overcomplicated.
Yeah. Look. Oh, okay. Well, did you notice that his Twitter handle is an anagram of his actual name? Did you notice that, listeners? That's something I can exclusively reveal on this podcast.
Pure coincidence.
Good night, listeners. We love you. Good night. Goodbye.
Bye.
Good night. Goodbye. Bye. Bye. Bye.